community college. All right,
Yeah.
I am going live.
All right.
All right, so we are now live, and hi everybody, it's Katie Harris, owner and CEO of Nursepreneurs, and today we have Tom Jacobs on with us from Business Lead Maximizer. So very, very excited for this. I've been working with Tom, what's it been, about 2 months? Has it been 2 months? I think it has been.
Yep.
This flies. But anyway, I wanted to share his business and what he's doing with you guys because it's amazing and you need to hear this. So, Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, great. So my name is Tom Jacobs, as Katie said. So thanks for the introduction. I'll do a little bit more of my introduction here in a second. Do you want me to go right into the presentation?
You can start however you like. What would you prefer?
Yeah, good. Just go right into the presentation,
Okay,
and then
let's do
during
it.
I do a little intro of me during the presentation as well.
Okay.
Cool. Let me just share my screen here. All right. Hopefully everybody can see my screen there. All right.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
perfect. Awesome. So fortune, and this is the title of the presentation, fortune is in the follow-up. And we hear that over and over and over again. But in my experience, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a second, it definitely is whether you are following up on prospects that are inquiring about the services that you offer, or if you're following up on the leads, the prospects that you've already spoken to in terms of getting them enrolled in your program or the services that you offer. So that there's two pieces. One, you have to have the appointment first to be able to offer your services. So if you have leads that are coming in and you're not booking appointments, that's a huge problem, obviously. And then if you do have those appointments, but they're not converting on that appointment because the sales would be not one of your favorite things to do, then there needs to be follow-up afterwards to get them to actually make a purchase or actually make a decision if they're going to do it or not. And those are two pieces that I've seen myself not do very well and other practitioners not do very well as well. And that's why I've come up with these programs to help um, specifically private pay, cash pay practices get better qualified appointments on the books. And so I have a process for that I'm going to take you through today. But also to be able to sell your services in a way that feels really authentic to you and doesn't feel ultra salesy. And I call that selling with heart as well. So, but we're going to focus today on the first part is you're getting leads, you have the great marketing, but those leads are not converting into appointments. And a lot of times we think that should automatically happen, but ultimately that's not an automated process as either. But one thing, it's all about that follow-up process. So imagine this scenario. So the lead sees your ad on Instagram or Facebook, they click on it, they fill in their information, then they get busy. They forget what they did. Maybe they get an email from you or maybe a text, but that email probably goes to junk or promotion. And the text they probably might ignore because it's from an unknown number. Well, then what? How else are you following up other than a couple text messages and maybe a couple emails? Well, the phone is everybody's best friend. It's really hard to ignore a phone call that also is sending them a text message because they initiated the contact. They're asking for help. In my opinion, it's our duty and obligation to follow up consistently and persistently to help that person book the appointment and ultimately get the help that they were seeking with your services. So a lot of practitioners don't have the time or the staff to be able to one, track where everybody is in the process. How many times should I follow up with somebody? And I have that for you. And or they just don't know how to talk to somebody on the phone. If it's especially a staff member, they may not feel real comfortable on the phone, which I've found to be true in this day and age, where everybody just loves to text. But ultimately, a lot of our customers actually like the phone call because it is a personal outreach to them. But if all of that work, if you install all those systems or you hire somebody to outsource it too, if you book an additional 3 to 5 new clients a month, would it be worth the follow-up? And I would argue that, yeah, it definitely would be worth the follow-up, especially if you're at the higher price point and the services that you have. Now, I realize a lot of you are taking some time off of work or away from family to watch this presentation. I'm going to be very, very cognizant of that. I like a nice, spicy, and crisp webinar. I don't like to have a lot of stuff and fluff in there that doesn't really matter too much. I want real action steps and frameworks so that you can actually grow your business. And that's what we're going to be going through today. And at the end, I'm going to give you a special gift as well, so that you can have all of these follow-ups for yourself as well. So a little introduction about myself. Who is this bald guy and why is he on this webinar? Well, since I will be spending a little bit of time this morning or this evening with you, I do want to share a little bit about my journey and what I've learned through tons of trial and error. So after helping dozens of wellness coaches book thousands of appointments with qualified prospects, I learned the importance of nurturing those leads to get them ready to buy. So you don't have to really sell that hard on the appointment itself. And today, by the end of this webinar, you will have the exact strategies we use to get more qualified prospects who are definitely ready to buy on your calendar. So qualified prospects are ready to buy. And who doesn't want that, right? Not only that, but way back when, in 2008, I opened up my fitness business, fitness and nutrition business. And I had that for 10 years and I sold that in 2018. Now, in the first 6 months of owning that business, I almost went broke because I did not know the value of follow-up, and I definitely didn't know how to sell wellness programs to people or fitness programs to people. And I was always chasing after getting the new leads because I always needed new leads coming into the business because I wasn't following up on the leads that were already coming into the business. And I remember one night I was sitting outside my gym in my car and I going through my voicemail, and there was a message from a gentleman that was interested in personal training. And it was like 8 o'clock at night. I'd spent like 3 or 4 hours, training clients, and I was exhausted. And I was like, you know what? It's 8 o'clock at night. I don't want to do this. I don't want to make the phone call, but I did anyway. And good thing I did because he was a really great client. He signed up for 3 days of private training. I think I charged like $750 a month for that. And he was a client for 3 years doing that. I mean, doing the math on that, that's basically a car. And had I not followed up on that lead on the same day that it came in, at least, he probably would have gone on to the next person on Google and started working with somebody else. And because I did that follow up, and that's when it really clicked in my head that if I'm not doing the follow up or getting somebody else to do the follow up, I'm leaving tons and tons of money on the table. And after I kind of learned that, I learned a really good sales process. I learned human psychology around sales. That business really took off in the second year after I implemented all of what I learned. And that's the other really the big key as well. We go through a lot of education. We do a lot of trainings. It really comes down to implementing what we learn. So I hope that you're taking notes today and you will actually implement some of the strategies that I lay out for you today as well. So if you think about, where are your leads right now? I like to think of it as a iceberg. So, the iceberg, there's a lot more below the surface than there is above the surface. But if you think about those new leads that are coming in, or the ones that self-book, they see the ad, they go through the funnel, they book a appointment straight away. Those are high urgency leads. They're highly motivated. They've probably already done a lot of research on you anyway. They know who you are. They're action takers, right? But that's a minority of the leads that are actually kind of inquiring, especially from Facebook and Instagram. Now you're going to get higher intent leads coming from Google because they are the ones that are actually searching for the service that you're offering. So, the ones below the surface, maybe the problem isn't that bad. They're looky-loos, a little bit curious. They don't know yet if they actually want to have the service or not, and they don't really know who you are as a practitioner. So they need a little bit more nurturing. They see the ad, they're intrigued, and then they click and they give their information, but they're not going to like immediately take action necessarily on the website 'cause they're like, or they forget as they go through the funnel, and then they don't know how to get back to the page where they were asked to book an appointment. And I see that over and over again in terms of, you watch somebody kind of go through the funnel and they get to the appointment page and then nothing happens. And they might get a few follow-ups, automated follow-ups, but again, emails go to spam or junk if they haven't interacted with that company before, and text messages sometimes get ignored as well. Right now we're getting tons of text messages on the phone, so it's just easy to kind of ignore them a little bit. But text still is a lot better than just email. But when you add the voice phone call, then it's going to really, really make a difference in terms of the follow-up. And that's what we're really talking about today, is taking those leads that are below the surface and ultimately elevating them up to the surface so that they will actually book a appointment. And if you think about, if you're getting 100 leads a month, but only like 5% are actually booking appointments, and that would actually be a really good number. That's probably only half, if or maybe a third or a quarter of who actually really wants your services. And if you're not consistently following up with those leads to get them on the phone and book the appointment, they're most likely going to get lost and forget that they even took action on it. This is one of my very first clients I worked with, Dr. Day. She's a naturopathic doctor in the DC area, and she has she does holistic functional medicine type of work. And once working with her, this is what she said. She said, my schedule has been booked 10 days out because of the leads you booked for me. It's been forever since that has happened. I had a staff member spending 5 to 6 hours calling webinar leads, and our follow-up was lacking. Now it's seamless with you guys. So she said literally overnight, her schedule was booked out for a week, and that has never really happened for her. So let's look at kind of how that happens in terms of the funnel and put some real numbers to it. So a lot of practitioners start with a webinar. Some go right to a discovery call or an appointment. It really doesn't matter how that happens. There's still steps that people go through to ultimately get on your calendar and then be sold a program. But let's just look at, registrations for a webinar. That's, a lot of people are doing webinars these days. You're going to have Facebook ads. You're going to retarget. You're going to get past registrants. You're going to get new people as well that will see that ad and register. And then obviously the goal is to get as many of those people to attend the webinar so that they actually get the information, they meet you, and they learn what you do, because it doesn't really help if they're not there. And then on the webinar itself, they may book a call, or maybe they might do it after the webinar. And then of course they need to show up for their appointment. And if you're doing virtual appointments, that there's usually a pretty high no-show rate unless you have the systems in place to make sure that they are reminded of those appointments. And then when they do show up, hopefully you enroll them into your program. Now, typically, a lot of people are spending, like $1,000 on advertising to get, maybe 200 people onto a webinar, or to get them registered for a webinar. So if you have 200 people registered for a webinar, you can expect, if you're doing good follow-up and actually making a phone call and getting them to attend, you can expect about a 30 to 40% show rate on that webinar. So if we just use 30%, that means 60 people will actually show up for the webinar. And I've seen people that have done webinars before we started working with them that had like 10% show rate to the webinar itself. And if you think about that, you spend $1,000 on advertising to get 200 people registered, but only 20 people or 10 people show up for the webinar. That's very discouraging, to say the least, or frustrating, definitely. But usually with warm follow-up and somebody actually calling them, you're going to see a huge bump in terms of 30 to 40%. And right now, consistently, we're getting 35 to 45% show rate on the webinar. And that makes sure that the $1,000 that you spend on advertising doesn't go to waste. And it's actually used for the people that get people to actually attend the webinar and get your information. Now, once they're on the webinar, 20% will typically take action, 10 to 20% will take action and book a call. And so if we look at that, 20%, it's 12 people. And then of those 12 people, probably 80% will actually show up for their appointment. Um, Really, the industry average is right around 60% for online appointments that people show up for, which is really poor. But we're seeing like anywhere from 80% upwards, or on average, 80% of people show for their appointment. So now you have 8 people sitting in front of you that are eager to hear exactly how you're going to help them. And you probably will sell 50% of those people if you're really good at sales. And the better you are, the more educated the buyer is, the higher that percentage of closing into a program works. And if you sell roughly a $2,000 program, or if the lifetime value of that client is $2,000, well, you just made $8,000 on $1,000 ad spend. So that's kind of how the math typically works on that. So that means that it costs $250 each to get that person onto your program, onto a $2,000 program. So $250 to get a $2,000 person. Now, what happens to the other 196 people that didn't buy? How is that follow-up happening? And obviously, the more you have at the top end of the funnel, the more that are going to come out to the bottom of the funnel as well. And then we look at each one of these conversion points and seeing how you can improve each one of those conversion points to make sure that you're optimizing your entire funnel. But if you're not following up with those other 196 people, and especially the 60 people that attended the webinar but didn't book an appointment, they need to be followed up as well. Because when you go on a webinar, and I'm sure there's some folks that are listening to this that are kind of half listening, doing some other things, and that's cool, multitasking. But if they're doing that on your webinar, they might not miss, or they might miss the opportunity to book the call or the offer that you lay out to them. And then ultimately you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Now, if you can get that number of 4 people that ultimately buy and double that to 8, now not only are you doubling your revenue, but you're also lowering the cost to acquire that client. It goes from $250 down to $125. And that's really, that's a perfect storm in terms of, going from a 700% return on investment to a 1,500% return on investment. And if that's the way it's working, I would do that every day, all day long, because that's those returns on investment are better than the stock market and definitely better than Vegas. So how does that happen then? So that's the problem, is trying to get people onto the booking. So how does that happen? Well, there is a process to follow up to get more appointments. And when I had my fitness business, I was just haphazardly calling people and trying to get them onto my calendar. But ultimately, I was also training people and doing consultations on nutrition. And so I didn't have a lot of bandwidth to be able to do that. And ultimately, I was like, you know what? I need to hire somebody to make those phone calls and follow up with leads. So I put into place a person, a part-timer, that came in. She became my front desk person as well. So she was charged with following up on the leads. And so we put together a cadence of, I think it was like 10 attempts to call somebody. And right now, on average, that's how many it takes to get somebody on the phone. It's like 9.4 attempts to get somebody on the phone to even book an appointment. I was like, how can we reduce that? Because obviously, when somebody has high intent, they're ready to do something, they're filling out that form. In that moment, they are ready. So what I asked the first the my employee to do is to call those leads immediately, and that's what I call speed to lead. Now, um, if there's anybody live on the webinar right now, does anybody think? Do you know what that time frame should be to respond to a lead that comes into your business? If you are live on the webinar, just type in the chat there and let me know like how many minutes or how many hours or how many days it should be to book to give that person a call to respond to the inquiry when somebody comes into the
We
response
got
to an ad.
15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going right through. Oh, 15 minutes is in.
Yeah, that's what they said in chat.
Okay. Yes. So actually that's great. It's actually 20 minutes is the kind of the standard because after 20 minutes, that lead gets really, really cold, really, really fast. Now, when I owned that fitness business, I had to move it. I changed leases. We outgrew the current place, the first place I was at, and so I got a new lease at a larger facility. And I was looking for flooring for the facility, so to get some rubber flooring in there. And so I was searching on the web, and I went to like 5 different flooring companies, put in my information, and then just was waiting for either the phone call or the email to come through. And most of them, I would get maybe an email. I think maybe 2 people like responded with email. Well, I was on one website and I put in my information, hit enter, and literally 30 seconds later, I get a phone call from, let's call him John over at the flooring company. And he said, "Hey, this is John from ABC Flooring. I see that you were interested in our, 2 centimeter rubber flooring. What kind of use are you using that for?" And he just like went right in. I was like, "Wow, 30 seconds, and I'm getting a call." Well, long story short, uh, I spent 10 minutes on the phone with him, gave him $6,000, and the next week I had my rubber flooring delivered to the business. All and literally within 10 minutes because one, I had a high intent to purchase. He responded immediately, so I didn't have to like get out of that mode of I need help, I need this rubber flooring, I want to get it that kind of covered off, tick it off my to-do list, and they won won the business. All those other businesses that I had contacted that took forever to respond, they lost out on that opportunity to get a $6,000 order. And so that really proved to me in my head that speed to lead is super important. So I implemented that and I had my front desk person incentivized to call the leads as soon as possible within 20 minutes. And so I said, if you call that lead within 20 minutes, I'm going to and they book an appointment, I'm going to give you $25. When they show up and they buy, I'm going to give you another $25. So it'll be like $50 for booking that lead when they show up if you call them within 20 minutes. So she was highly motivated to book those leads. And I got to tell you, it was amazing because they were such high intent leads. Everybody that we called and were able to connect with within that 20 minutes booked an appointment 100%. Nowadays, it's not quite that great, but this was back in 2011, I think, is when I implemented that. But they were high intent. Everybody booked an appointment that we were able to get a hold of within that 20 minutes. Everybody, 100%. And then when they showed up for their appointment, I was amazed that 100% of them bought a training or a nutrition package. And they weren't the lower end of the packages either. They were the higher end of the packages. And my packages ran anywhere from like $3,000 to $8,000 for the year. And I was amazed. And so I was like, well, this is well worth the $50 that I paid my front desk person to get the lead into the business because I knew if we contacted them within 20 minutes of that lead coming in, that we were going to make a sale, and it was going to be a really good sale as well. Now, I can hear some of you probably in your brains going, 20 minutes, but I'm working with patients, I'm working with clients. How do I respond to those leads with a phone call? It's not just a text message, it's not just a email, but a phone call. How do I do that? Well, either get it done, like you get it on your phone, step away from the patient for, I know that seems ridiculous. Or you hire somebody to do it for you and to make sure that those leads are being followed up with. And then if you don't get a hold of them straight away, you need to have a system to contact them on a consistent and persistent basis. So, anybody care to guess how many contacts it would take to get somebody on the phone? And I'll tell you this from our stats, contacting people within 20 minutes, you are 2 to 3 times more likely to get them on the phone in the first place than if you waited that after 20 minutes. So how many contacts do we think it takes? I think I gave that answer away a little bit ago.
I was
It's
going to say, wasn't it 10?
exactly it was. It was 9.4. So and so let's just say 10 to make math easy. So and it takes about an average of 3 minutes per call. And that is dialing the number, waiting for them to answer, or waiting for the voicemail and then leaving the voicemail, or if they do answer, then having a conversation with them. So over the course, it's usually about a 3-minute process per call to get somebody on the lead on the call. And if you get so that and it takes an average of 10 times to get somebody on the phone, that's 30 minutes per lead. And if you have 100 leads, I did the math for you here. If you get 100 leads in a month, that's 50 hours that you're spending. And if you have somebody that you've hired to do that, that 50 hours is, about $975 in payroll costs. So assuming it's $15 an hour plus the 30% for benefits and tax. So, not to mention the cost of the system, the training, and that they're only working about 12 hours per week. So what happens to those leads that come in at different times of the day that really need to get people responded to during those other times when that person isn't on the clock, right? Well, in our business, we use a power dialer that enables our agents to make an average of 250 dials in the matter of 2 hours. So it's a great system. We actually, use the same system as Nursepreneurs, the Go High Level program. And there's a single line power dialer in there that really helped out quite a bit. Enables our agents to do about 150 calls a day. But now we implemented another program in there that does 3 dials at the same time, because we know that most people aren't going to answer straight away. And so that just gets through all the calls so much easier, and we're able to drop voicemails for people that don't answer. It's been a game changer in terms of the number of leads that we're able to attack very, very quickly and consistently on that. But this is what the contacts look like. So that first dot, that's within 20 minutes, same day. And then we wait about 4 hours and make the attempt again. If that 4 hours is outside the call times as set by the government, then it goes to the next day. And then the third call is typically the next day. And then we do another the next day. So we have 4 calls within 3 days. And then we give them a rest and we go every other day for 3 attempts. So every other day, and then we go every third day. And that is the call cadence that I would suggest anybody does to just simply get to those 11 or those 10 calls to get people on the phone. And that is, we've used that. It's tried, it's tested, it works really, really well. The kind of downside is that it's going to take you 50 hours per month to do that. And that's $975 in labor cost to do that as well. So, and some people might be saying too in their mind is like 10 contacts to somebody, doesn't that annoy people? Well, they reached out first. That's my philosophy is they reached out first. They were contacting you to get information. It is your duty and obligation to get them on the phone and to do whatever it takes to do that. So every touch we do, the phone call, try to leave a voicemail if we can. If we can't leave a voicemail, then we're going to send a text no matter what as well. And some people are more apt to text. Some people like the phone call. They call back if it's a missed call. People don't generally get annoyed, but every once in a while there's those snowflakes out there that get annoyed at anything. And they're like, why are you calling me? How do you get my number? I'm like, well, you gave it to me. So, but if somebody says, stop calling, great, stop, we stop, right? And you would stop as well. You'd mark them as do not disturb and just go on to the next person. We'll just let it roll. And I've had clients that have gotten one complaint, after making thousands of calls, like, oh, this person complained, we're calling too much. We need to stop calling so much. I was like, one person out of 1,000 complained. Yes. And so now you're letting one person dictate how you're going to run your entire business and how many people are going to help. Does that make sense? Not really. That one person, because you had one negative comment, is it's going to change your business and not enable you to help as many people as possible. I think that's kind of ridiculous. So I always preface this with, yes, you will get a few complaints, but the greater good is you're helping a lot more people because that you are reaching out to them on a regular and consistent basis. So then once you get somebody on the phone, then what? You need to have scripting that converts those warm leads, the people that inquired, get them a lot warmer to then show up for their appointment. And so there's some scripting, and that's part of the gift that I'm going to give you is some of that scripting as well. So you know what to say when you get them on the phone. And it's really important to start the engagement on the phone. And the very first question we always ask is, what inspired you to reach out in the first place? Or what inspired you to get on the webinar? What inspired you to request a consultation? Because now when you ask that question, it gets them to really think about, yeah, why did I do that? And now we're getting into where they are headspace wise in terms of helping them make that decision and making sure that they make that decision to book the appointment. And that's really the purpose of that first phone call. And this is where a lot of practitioners who are doing these phone calls kind of make the first kind of mistake is that they try to sell their full program on this initial phone call to book the appointment. Sell the appointment. That's all you need to do on the phone is sell the appointment. And usually it's a free discovery call, so it's kind of an easy sell. But that's all you're doing is selling that appointment, getting them excited to just show up. Because then once they show up, one, it's a scheduled appointment so that you're in the right headspace to help them make a decision. They're in the right headspace to make a decision and have an appointment. It makes the sales process so much easier when you do it that way. I mean, when I had the fitness business, we would have people just show up and say, oh, yeah, I want a consultation. I never allowed that to happen. I always had them book an appointment because I knew that I wasn't necessarily in the right headspace at that moment to help them. I might have been doing 5 different things at one time and just, breaking that concentration and then going into the sales, it's just really awkward. And so I always had scheduled times for doing the appointments so that I could really, concentrate on them, help them, ask tons of good questions to get them to realize that they have a problem that was big enough to solve with our program. So that's, you don't want to start selling on the phone the moment that somebody, or selling the program on the phone the moment that somebody requests information. You just want to sell the next step, and that would be the appointment. So those are the 3 steps so that we went through. So, the first is 1, speed lead. So 20 minutes. And if you hear nothing else during this presentation, attack those leads within 20 minutes of them coming into the business. And yes, I understand a lot of leads come in overnight at 2 a.m. What people are doing at 2 a.m. on surfing the web and filling out forms, I don't know. But obviously you're not going to call those people at 2 a.m. You're going to wait till the next day and call them. But if it's between 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the day, give them a call within 20 minutes. You're going to do so much better in responding to the lead. So speed to lead, the most important. And then if you don't get a hold of them, then we need to follow up with them on average 10 times to get that appointment. And then once we are on the phone with them, we need a really good script to be able to convert them from just looky-loos into actual paying clients. So I'm going to put in the chat, everyone. I don't know if this is going out on all of the chats. Let me know, Katie. It's a
No, you said it to me private. I'll add it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So this is the free report. It's called Monday. I call it Monday because it's how would it feel to wake up Monday morning with a full calendar for the week of qualified appointments. And that feeling is absolutely amazing to see a calendar with appointments. And, even for my own business, I eat my own food, eat my own dog food, so to speak. I have my agents calling the leads that we get for the business as well. And it's always great to see, appointments getting on my calendar without me having to lift a finger to get them there. And it's great. It's just great to see that qualification process, because now I have good quality appointments on my calendar. I hardly get any no-shows as well, because we have this system in place. And in this free report, it takes you through the process, the text messages. So I'm giving you scripting for the text messages to send, giving you scripting for the voicemails to record, and then also ultimately the scripting for once you get them on the phone to book the appointment. So that's the first gift of there. Step 2 then would be train your staff on the process and manage that process. And if you don't have the staff, then to obviously outsource it. And we would love to be that agency, appointment setting service that takes those leads that you're already getting and booking those appointments. So Katie, if you could put that into the chat as well, I'd appreciate it. So this is a special link to schedule a call with me personally, and we'll spend 30 minutes on the phone learning a little bit more about your business and how we can possibly help you. If we can't help you, that's no problem. You'll walk away with some really good advice on what you can be doing to follow up on the leads and all that. I got to tell you, if you have less than 30 leads coming in on a monthly basis, then our service probably wouldn't be a great fit. But if you're having 30 or more leads on a monthly basis, then it gets very busy very quickly with that type of follow-up and getting them involved or getting those appointments booked. So anything more than 30 leads, then you might want to think about hiring somebody else to do that for you. All right. And if we have any questions along the way, I am fully able to answer those questions. I love answering questions as well.
Well, Tom, let me ask you, so you had mentioned coaching, but how does this work in, let's say, the retail space or, for med spas, IV hydration, that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't matter what the business is. If you're getting leads and you need appointments booked, then you need to follow up with those leads within 20 minutes. And if you don't get a hold of them straight away, then you need to follow up with them on average 10 times to book the appointment. So it doesn't matter. Like we have med spas that we work with. Obviously, we work with your spa as well. We have financial advisors that we work with as well, but primarily we work in the health and wellness industry. So our agents are able to kind of speak that language, and they have a very caring voice. They know how to use empathy. We spend a lot of time training on empathy because that's, people need to hear that on the phone. And because a lot of times this is the first contact with the business. And so we want to make sure that we're portraying your business in a very positive light with a really nice, warm voice on the other end of that phone.
Yeah. And I would say, like, when I first started with the clinic, and I was a couple months into it, just following the inside our, we call it NOLA, but inside our GHL, I finally found the dashboard and saw, and I think I told you this, like we had missed in the course of 30 days, like 80 calls. It was, and they were first time callers. So it was just kind of like, what is the point of advertising if we're not even going to answer the call?
Yeah.
It was
And
a
those were
waste.
inbound calls, or
They were
like the
inbound.
intent callers. They're dialing your number. Yeah. And to
Right.
not
And they're
have
dialing the number and nobody's answering. And so, I mean, how bad does that look?
yeah. Yeah. Oh, this must be a scam is probably what they're
Yeah,
thinking.
exactly. I saw it on Facebook. Nobody answers. It must be a scam. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and actually I looked at our dashboard and we had 100 and some calls that were answered this past month. So that was exciting.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And technology makes a huge difference in that as well. So making sure that, the systems are tested to make sure that the phones get forwarded properly, they get logged properly, the calls are recorded, all that. And, we have a lot of technology behind our systems as well. And with, NOLA, your system as well, the technology is there to be able to monitor that and track it.
Yeah. I mean, the go ahead level is definitely been a game changer. And we have so many like great uses for it. It's just, um, yeah, it's just amazing. So, and, in terms of, I mean, just the sheer number of people and the number of times that you have to call back. Like when you're talking about that kind of stuff, like it's exhausting. Like I'm exhausted thinking about it. Like having to do that. Like I'm lucky if we call them back once, let alone 10 times. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just not going to happen.
And when I first started the service, I did a study where I had one of my employees go to 100 different fitness centers in the US, to their websites, fill out forms on the website to then track how many actually responded, how quickly did they respond. And out of the 100, nobody responded with a phone call within 20 minutes. Nobody did. We had one we had one company that responded same day.
Oh, well, that's
And then
nice.
yeah, 21%. So 21 of those businesses responded within a day or so with at least a phone without I'm sorry, with at least an email. So they did have an autoresponder, but only 29 was it 20? Yeah, no, 21%. So 21 responded somehow. So by an email. That means that 79% of the businesses did nothing with the lead that came in. They just went nowhere. And and this was pre-COVID, but I'm sure COVID put the nail in that coffin real quick for
Yeah,
for them in terms of putting them out of business. Because if you're not following up with leads, it was just crazy.
right,
And only one company followed up more than one time, and it was three phone calls that we received from this one company. It
right.
was just
Yeah,
crazy. I was so amazed and angered
yeah.
at this.
I, Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I would say the one industry that's really got this nailed down is probably, the mortgage industry where you put it, you want to refinance your house. The next thing you know, like as soon as you hit it, like somebody's call. I'm like, that there's no way you could have dialed my number that fast. Like how? But
Exactly.
they definitely have it dialed in, and yeah, I mean, you could have a mortgage basically the same day, like as fast as they move.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge money for them. They realize that speed to lead, because that lead oftentimes, especially for the mortgage industry, because we've had a couple people inquire from the mortgage side, those leads actually go to several brokers at the same time. So that lead
Right.
comes into the funnel. Some company then sells those leads out to their clients of 5 or 6 clients, and it's whoever gets to it first gets the deal.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Speed to lead.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, awesome. So if you guys have questions for Tom, please put them in the chat at this point. Yeah, like I said, I am a client of a Business Lead Maximizer, and it's been absolutely fantastic because it's just me and my admin in my wellness center. And I do ads, and I had a summit, and I've had a lot of stuff going on. And we get a ton of leads coming in, and it's a nightmare. Like it's like, it's like a whole nother thing to do, right? Like I'm paying for the leads, so I need to nurture them because otherwise it's just a colossal waste of money not to nurture them. But I can't stand it either. Like I don't want to do it. I physically don't want to do it. It makes me like, just to call somebody who's just called, like I have an aversion to it. Like it's an intense aversion. And and it kind of sounded like you calling that guy back at 8 o'clock at night, that's just like, I just don't want to. But
yeah, I was in the right frame of mind. Yeah, it's a good thing I did, because he
yeah,
became a really good friend as well, and a kind of a business mentor, because he was a really good businessman as well. And so
right.
it turned out to be a really good thing that I did.
The universe was watching out for you.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, guys.
Yeah, and
So,
like
go ahead.
on the lead front, you're getting all those leads in. I don't know about you, but my cost per lead on Facebook right now is like anywhere between $5 to $10 for every lead that clicks on that ad. And generally, 20% go into a to an appointment. So those appointments are actually costing me, like $20 to $30 per appointment just for the advertising cost.
Right.
So if you're not following up and getting that higher percentage, your cost per appointment is going through the roof, because you're just not optimizing the follow-up on those
Right.
fresh leads that
Well,
are coming.
and then people say, oh, well, Facebook ads don't work. Well, I mean, they work. All ads work. That's not the problem. Maybe you should check your dashboard like I did and see that you missed 100 calls, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just one phone call, or relying on automation that oftentimes gets broken or ignored as
Right.
well.
Yeah, that's true too. And then also I was having my admin do it for a little bit, but I mean, to be honest, she sucked at it, and I sucked at teaching her. So it was like the blind leading the blind, because I'm like, oh, just call them back. But then I heard her talking to them, and I'm like, oh, that's not, yeah. And then I just I didn't have the script for them. So when I've gone through like role plays with Clint on your team, I mean, it's a completely different approach to what I was taking. Just, hey, why'd you call us, or what do you want, or like come in.
Why-
Yeah, why are you
well, yeah,
bothering me?
I heard a recording that somebody sent me of their staff calling or listen. I think it was an inbound call, and booked the appointment, and then the caller was like, "Oh yeah, and what's the address, or how do I get to your?" It was a dental office. "How do I get to your office?" And oh, you can Google it. Like the
Oh,
front desk is just like, "Oh yeah, just Google it." I'm like,
just
come on,
Google
like,
it.
just Google it. Yeah. Well,
Oh God.
yeah, but I'm asking you. I'm on the phone right now with you. So it's
Right.
like little that that you know, common sense is not common so
Right.
much. And so, especially for phone work, you really have to have good scripting and good training to make sure that the staff is, you know, really giving that great customer service and able to convert the leads into appointments.
Right. And plus it does, and I'm sure you do training for your staff with this, but there's also going to be, like you said, the one person that's a jerk, or, a
Mhm.
lot of just kind of, why are you calling me type of stuff, or please stop. And that kind of stuff, it starts to grate on you after a while. And then my version is being afraid that that's going to happen on every phone call. And not being able to handle that.
Yep. Yeah. I actually asked my agents to forward me any of the recordings that where somebody is like especially rude, and we had one that it sounded like an older lady, like maybe in her 70s, but the language that she used to to ask ask the agent to stop calling was, I was like, wow, quite the sailor
Right,
in the
right.
language. Gosh. But we do a lot of training. So they have coaching every week with the team lead. I do a training every week with the entire group. And then every day we have a AI call simulator that simulates different calls in different scenarios so that they are used to now like rude calls, how to respond to them properly, or just off the wall questions that the AI kind of comes up with to ask them.
Mhm.
And so they do 15 minutes every day of call simulator before they start dialing so that it's fresh in their head and they're able to have really good conversations then.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have a business or you have leads coming in, if you're not following up the leads, you need to call Tom and his team and let them do it. And especially if you're like me and you're completely adverse to or averse to, calling people on the phone. You know, it's. I mean, this is mandatory. And you're right. Like the follow up is so important. And that's what we found in our business, because here we were spending thousands of dollars on Facebook leads, and the leads are coming in. That wasn't the problem. Like, it's not more money that we need to spend on Facebook. It was more nurturing on the back end to work with those leads in the first place. So it's quite possible that you have all the leads that you need in the system, and this is the missing piece is following up with them. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say, like, I can't imagine anybody except maybe one outlier in the group is making 10 phone calls per client. Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah. And frankly too, the cost, it's less than that part-time, that 50-hour employee that I outlined before, the $950. It's going to be less than that, based on volume. Um, but we also have 68 hours a week that we're calling. It's 7 days a week. And the total of 68 hours, we do Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturdays 10 to 7, and Sundays 12 to 5. So whenever those leads come in, they are getting same day calls. So 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
So definitely
oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, so I also forgot that for any of the nursepreneurs that do contact us and want to go forward, then we're giving $100 off the setup fee as well for any of
Oh,
your
that's
staff.
nice.
Yeah, so make sure you let me know that you're part of Katie's group, and I will give you that $100 off.
Awesome. Yeah, so I will send all this stuff out in follow up as well, so people will have the links, and they'll get emails for the next couple of days, just reminding them with our follow up process. And yeah, I mean, seriously, if you have a business and you have leads coming in, this is like a no brainer. It's taken such a weight off of me, my staff, and it's my staff. I have one person, but it makes the Facebook ads 1,000 times more effective and cost effective. So the follow up is absolutely mandatory.
Yeah, fortune is in the follow up.
The fortune is in the follow up. Just like, hey, you start it, you end it. Awesome, Tom. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me, and happy to share.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming out tonight, and make sure you call Tom because you definitely need him.